Hello and welcome to my channel Live My Journey. My name is Tom and today I will be doing a tutorial on image stacking in drone photography using Adobe Photoshop. Image stacking is a well-known technique in fields like astrophotography or macro photography, but it's not very widely used in the world of drone photography. I think it's a really good match with stabilized flying cameras. The way it works is that instead of taking a single picture, we take a series of pictures in quick succession. After importing our images into Adobe Photoshop as layers, all the images are averaged out into a single picture. As a result of this process, our image recovers a lot of detail, as well as the noise, the digital noise is reduced quite significantly. Because of the amount of noise that we reduce, including the shadows, it also in a way increases the dynamic range of the picture, as we can recover more of the shadows in the image. This method also combats an issue of smeared photographs in long exposure photography by allowing us to take a series of pictures with relatively quick shutter speeds. This method also helps with an issue known from long exposure photography, which is smeared photos. Because we are taking a series of pictures, the shutter speed can be relatively fast, even in low light scenarios. What will you need? A drone shooting raw photos and Adobe Photoshop. This method can also be used with JPEGs, however you will be greatly limited in terms of post-production. What settings to use while shooting photos? In most of the more advanced drones you will find a mode called burst mode. It will allow you to take between 3 and 7 pictures in quick succession. In case your drone does shoot raw photos, however does not have a burst mode, you can just use a single mode to shoot a number of pictures with the same exact settings. You can also use interval mode, setting it to a time for the shutter to be released. On a drone like DJI Mini 2 that does not have a burst mode, you can use either a single photo and press shutter as many times as you require, or you can use interval mode for the drone to automatically take pictures in set intervals. For the daytime photography, I recommend a series of 5 pictures, whereas for the low light photography, I recommend setting the burst mode into multiples of 7s and taking up to 3 series. In a drone not equipped with the burst mode, take between 15 and 20 photographs. How to expose? In daytime photography, expose as you normally would taking a single picture. In low light, I recommend setting your ISO between 400 and 800 and your shutter speed between 1/3 and 1/10 of a second. These are relatively low shutter speeds for low light photography. However, by taking a series of photographs and having a boosted ISO, we get really good results when all the pictures are combined. When exposing the picture, make sure that none of the light sources in a frame are overexposed. I actually find that using this method you can underexpose the picture slightly. I will illustrate this on a histogram so you will roughly know what settings to go for. This is due to the fact that this method will remove a significant amount of noise, which allows us to go deeper into the shadows. The best time for low light photography is within an hour of a sunset or an hour before the sunrise. After framing your shot, allow a couple of seconds for the drone to settle, as they tend to drift a little bit. Okay, I think I've given you all the theory that you will need, and now we can go straight into Adobe Photoshop and start editing our photos. Okay, we're on the main screen of Adobe Photoshop, so now what we want to do is we want to find our folder where we keep the images that we've taken that we want to stack. So what I would recommend you to do is separate these images into separate folders so they're easier to find, easier to select. So this is what I've done. I placed a folder on my desktop called Stacking Tutorial, and that's where we're going to look for our pictures now. First you choose, at the top you choose option File, and you go down to Scripts. You go to the right and choose an option called Load Files into Stack. Okay, now we're going to go into Browse, and as I said, I placed it on a desktop. This is my folder, stacking tutorial. All it contains is the series of images that we're going to be working on today. So I'm selecting all of these images and then choosing open. So now when we press OK, Adobe Photoshop will add these images into stack. So we can see on the right hand side where we have our layer screen, we can see that these images are being successfully loaded into a stack. Okay, all the images are loaded now. So what we're going to do is select the top image, then we're going to scroll down to the bottom image, press Shift and click on the bottom image to select all of them. Now once all of our pictures from the series are selected, what we want to do is go to option Edit, Auto Align Layers. Okay, we are not changing anything on the Auto Align layers. We're going to leave it at Auto and press OK. So what's going to happen now is the program will account for all the movements of the drone as it was hovering while taking pictures. There may be, depending on the wind, there can be quite a bit of movement between each photo, and what the program is going to do is it's going to align all the photos. Okay, so our layers have now been aligned. As you can see, we have lost some of the data, some of the information on the side. This is because some of our pictures have been slightly moved, but this is all good news, because what this tells us, these few millimeters on the sides are the movements of the drone that in long exposure photography would just cause your image to be totally soft, blurred and smeared because of the movement while the shutter was being open. So what we can do now is we can crop the image if we wanted to. I'm gonna leave it be. I can do that later on. It's not really important to the whole process at the moment. So after we have all our images aligned, we go to a option at the top called Layer. From the Layer menu, we select Smart Object, and what we're going to do is select Convert to Smart Object. This is going to take a little while all the images are being converted into one object. Okay, this is all done now. The next step is to go back to the layer, go back to Smart Object, and this time at the bottom select the stacking mode. Now, two stacking modes I recommend for you to try are mean. Mean stacking mode will give you better results in terms of removing of any noise and bringing back the detail. However, in terms of image like the one we've got on the screen at the moment, where there is an object on the picture that is not as sharp as everything else, this is obviously due to the movement of the drone and how the layers have been adjusted. In that sort of situation, and only then, I would recommend using the median stacking method. So the two methods are right on top of each other. Mean for slightly better result and median for better result if one part of the image is not as sharp as the rest of it. So we're going to select median, and voila! What we've got at the moment is ready stacked image. So all the pictures that we have taken have been merged into one photograph that will have superior detail as well as all the noise removed. All that's left to do now is to edit the photo. I will not show you exactly how to edit because you know that already. I will show you a few steps that I do to make this image pop. So we're gonna open it in camera raw filter, but if you prefer to open it in Lightroom, that's what you can do. These two options are very similar to each other. So at the moment we can see that the image is exposed. As I mentioned previously, it's a little bit underexposed. It's exposed to the left. looking at the histogram, if it was exposed correctly, we would have the histogram stretch all the way to the right. So we can do that now. We can stretch it using our exposure slider, and we can see how this night image turns into day. But we need to pay attention to the little marking on the right of the histogram, so none of the information on the image are overexposed. We really don't want to overexpose that image, especially if it is a nighttime photography. So the next thing I would do is to boost the texture to recover some of the details. Normally options like adding sharpness and texture, they bring out a lot of noise, but because our image has been completely denoised, we can actually go for it and increase it quite significantly. Next, we can close the basic settings and go into detail. And what I would do is add sharpening. Again, this will make this image pop, but this is up to you. This, you know, as how far you want to go with the sharpening, it's up to you. I like to go about between 70 and 100, depending on the image. In terms of this image, I think it's sharp enough, and when we add sharpening of about 70, it becomes sort of so sharp that it is lifelike, like looking through a window at this picture, not considering this is a photo taken with a 230 gram drone with the 12 megapixel sensor from a mobile phone. We could then zoom in to some of the parts of the image where we have maybe a little bit of noise, if there's any noise left. Probably the best thing to do is to go to a 100% zoom, so we have a pixel per pixel. I don't actually see any remaining noise on this image. However, if there was any, I would increase the noise reduction up to 20-30. But in terms of this image, it's really unnecessary. It would just lose some of the details, so we're going to leave that be. Maybe, I don't know, maybe we're going to pull it to about 10. Okay. And another thing I would recommend doing is, obviously we have now a nighttime picture that looks a bit like a day because of the lit up sky. Taking picture with a long exposure, even over an hour after the sunset, can leave your sky very, very bright in comparison to the ground. So what we're going to do now is we're going to use a radial filter. Okay, we're going to zoom out our image and we're going to stretch that radial filter so the bottom edge is quite flat. We're going to place it on top of the sky like so. We're going to fit our image, and then we're going to decrease the exposure, and voila, we have a night sky. Without any additional editing, I would say this image looks great, you know. So whatever you want to do to this image afterwards, you can just go crazy. You can edit it as much as you want, you know, to make it your own. Now, to think of it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put stack of the images that we worked on now. I'm gonna put it on Google Drive, and I'm gonna place a link in the description of this video. So if you haven't got any pictures to stack and you wanted to practice that using the Photoshop, you can even do it today. If you wanted to import your pictures from Lightroom into Photoshop, it's very simple. What you need to do is select the images, and then right click on the selected images, and from the drop down menu go into edit in and open as layers in Photoshop. Exactly the same thing will happen as what we did at the beginning of this tutorial by loading the images into layers. After that, we obviously would have to still adjust the layers, create a smart object, and then choose the stacking method. So this is it for my tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something interesting today. If you like the video, please give me a thumbs up. If you think I've wasted your time, thumbs down. If you have any comments or questions whatsoever, drop them down in the comment section down below, and see you later.